Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. And today we have Liz and Dick. This is actually a Lifetime movie from 2012. It's an hour and 29 minutes long, and it stars Lindsay Lohan and Grant Bowler. I'm hoping I'm saying that right, because it's like J.K. Rowling, but his name is B-O-W-L-E-R. Is it Bowler? Is it Bowler? I don't know. He plays Richard Burton to her Elizabeth Taylor. Now, if you know who they are the template. Well, I mean, I can't say that. You got to remember that Marilyn Monroe existed, and she was dating a number of controversial. Well, she had a number of different men throughout her life. Earlier on, this takes place primarily in the '60s. And follows the life and the romance and the emotional terrorism that basically went on between Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. They are icons of Hollywood. They are the template for a lot. If you discount Marilyn and so many others, they are the template for Hollywood tabloid news, romance news. This is listed as a romance, a biography, drama. It is, it feels like it was just taken from, it's a pile of scenes. It's like almost like a highlight reel slapped together and crammed into an hour and a half. Just scenes taken from tabloids in the 60s. Yeah, it's a lot. It's frustrating because there's probably more to these people than just bickering and then just going at it, then bickering and then going at it. But hey, alcoholism does that to you. Pretty much Richard Burton was an alcoholic for a good portion of his life, and there is rarely a scene that takes place in this film that does not feature them drinking, primarily him drinking. And when they met on the set of Cleopatra, which they were, co-leads, she immediately hated him. And he was an older man, and she's like 29 or something at the time. And she immediately hated him, and then suddenly they were in love. They were already married to other people. She'd Eddie Fisher, and I'm forgetting who he was married to. Sybil Burton. Her name is Sybil Burton. But yeah, there's all sorts of drama. It was, Eddie Fisher was probably like her third or fourth husband at the time, and they were, the paparazzi were following them. In fact, I'm almost thinking that there's a scene in this where I think they seem to imply that the term paparazzi was coined as a result of the people in Rome and Italy following them around. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. But if you just want to see a template of what a relationship train wreck looks like, fueled by alcohol and lust, and you get the feeling that sure, they were in love with each other as much as they could when they weren't already in love with themselves. Elizabeth Taylor pretty much was focused on herself. Richard Burton pretty much focused on himself. He's a stage actor. She's a Hollywood icon making films. At one point, I realized that they were together for 12 years. She states this toward the the last 5 minutes of the film. She states this, that they were together for 12 years and they made 40 movies together during that time. 40. Yep. There's only one other film business that makes that many movies with the same two actors in such a short period of time. And I'm not going to say it out loud because I might get flagged, but you know what I'm saying. That's a lot of movies to have the same actors together. Okay, those other films, people can make 40 of those movies probably in a weekend. But still, the point is, for Hollywood, that's a lot for the same leads together constantly. And what this film attempts to do, because it is a Lifetime TV movie, it was literally released not even a year after Elizabeth Taylor's death, because God knows, had they done this while she was still alive, she would have burned down Hollywood, probably, I think. Because, yeah, I don't know if it necessarily does her and Richard justice. And even if somebody had done them justice in film, she probably wouldn't have liked it. Yeah, these are people who burned the candle at both ends, blew through so much money, bought planes and jewelry and crazy just stuff on a whim, just, whenever they decided, hey, you know what? My wife's just got invited to do a movie. I want to be the male lead in that. And they would just bully people, the producers, into adding Richard to the film instead of having her going up against another lead, a male lead that, And of course, when he would make a film that would hopefully make a few bucks for them to keep afloat, he would eventually cheat on her. It's, again, they're absolutely horrible to each other, but they're so much in love. Maybe I'm misjudging it completely, but the way it's depicted here, they go at it a number of different ways. They bracket the film with the final day of Richard Burton's life and ends with his death. I don't know what year he died, but and everything in between just becomes just a series of scenes from their first meeting all the way to their last, their second divorce. I don't know. It's all over the place. And there's also a part where they're also being interviewed. They're all in black, and it's like they're being interviewed as if they were the actual Lindsay Lohan, and as if they were the actual actors, but being interviewed after they died. Maybe you don't really realize that until the very end, I think, where you're just like, when was this interview was supposed to happen? I mean, did this interview happen? Did I forget that there was an interview like this at one point? By the way, you also get to see them reenact certain roles throughout their careers. Elizabeth Burton's, things. So yeah, it's for fans of these actors, you might get really offended at the way it's depicted, or you might just go, yeah, that's pretty much it. This is the Cliff Notes. This is, again, the kind of, you can tell it's shot for TV. The budget is low enough that when they're just getting in and out of a car in Rome, it's against a blue screen or green screen or whatever it is. It's super obvious. It's so flat. But hey, you know what? It's a Lifetime Channel budget. They're not going for the motion picture budget. And honestly, if somebody did, I don't know if anybody's ever done a full story, like maybe her life or maybe their life together. I don't know what you'd get out of it, really. It would be more than like, if you're talking about old Hollywood, if you're not old Hollywood, but if you're doing a film about Hollywood, these two have to take a pretty big chunk of the 60s with you. Yeah, it's not good. What is good? I have to tell you this. I always look for positive things to say about a film. The makeup. I realize that for the most part, Lindsay Lohan's just wearing a black wig. But the makeup to make her look like Elizabeth, it's all in the eyes, how they do her eyes, her cheekbones, and those lips. Seriously. If you just looked at Lindsay Lohan and said, oh, you know what, let's get her to play Elizabeth Taylor, you wouldn't look at normal Lindsay Lohan and go, oh yeah, that's going to be Elizabeth Taylor. But I'm going to say the makeup team on this nailed the look of Elizabeth through the different eras, all the way from Cleopatra, where we first see her in this. And she's already an established actress at this point, but Oscar-winning actress, by the way. And that's also another plot point where Richard Burton keeps trying to be a movie star and keeps trying to get, he's a stage actor, you know, he's a Welsh stage actor, and he's so good at Shakespeare and everything else, but he keeps getting passed over for Oscars. Lee Marvin even beat me, yeah, so he's not too fond of the whole Hollywood world, and yeah, it's, again, a lot is left out in this. It's an hour and a half long. And it runs, the credits are honestly a minute long, so they run it tight as they can. When this appeared on Lifetime, of course, that half hour was all commercials, more than like, of course, it's a half hour worth of commercials in 2 hours. But yeah, back to the the makeup, hair, her hair in the different eras, all the way to the final scenes, her big spiky kind of do when she was hanging out with Michael Jackson era. Yeah. But yeah, this is not a movie I necessarily recommend to somebody who has no clue who these people are. There's nothing about this where you go, oh, well, I really want to see this because this is a document of history. No. It gives you an idea. It's if you just grabbed a bunch of magazines or tabloid papers from the 60s and page through them, you get the same effect, except this is live. This is humans acting out these scenes. And it becomes frustrating. There's a few funny parts here and there, but it's frustrating to watch these two characters just be completely in love with each other one moment, and then literally a second later, absolute cruelty to each other, and then the next second, absolute loving. And there's no like message like this is the way people should be, this is the way you shouldn't be. And maybe you don't want to necessarily look for a message in a movie like this, of course, but I can't imagine anybody getting anything out of this. No, nothing against the people who made it. Honestly, directed by Lloyd Kramer. Nothing against the people who made it, but yeah, this is very much. It feels like a shock and awe kind of production of these people's lives. Yeah, and unless you're a really big Lindsay Lohan fan and you're like, I got to see everything she does, this is very much a lot different than what she normally does. And I can't imagine her doing this to say, oh, you know what, I want an Emmy. I want an Emmy for this. Did she get an Emmy for this? Did she even get nominated? No, I don't think so. Was there awards? No. It's just people being really drunk around each other, acting drunk, and loving and hating. So that's, when you're done, you just feel, maybe you feel kind of sorry for them, maybe for the actors, but also for the actors they played. I don't know. It's there may be another film like this put out someday, but I can't. Maybe not a film. This is. I say this for a lot of movies that I see, that they could be better served as series, like a 10-episode series that really just sort of fleshes out that era. Hulu did the Pam and Tommy thing, which Pam Anderson will not ever want to see, but it gave you the ability to see the nuance in a tabloid version depiction of their lives. And their lives pretty much lived through, their fame pretty much was brought out through tabloids, and this is pretty much the same thing, but crammed in an hour and a half. So it feels rushed, and it feels longer than it should. It feels longer than an hour and a half because so much time passes in just that time. So much, like a decade, 2 decades. I can't recommend it. I'm sorry, but if this is your thing, if you like some good schlocky popcorn, just kind of movie, go for it. Yeah. If you decide to make a drinking game out of this movie, like every time they drink, you'll die. If every time they treat each other like garbage, it'll be drunk really early. It'll take a break every once in a while, but then it'll just vacillate. Do water for when they're being loving to each other, and then do alcohol when they hate each other. And you might be able to middle ground it. I'm not sure. Let's pick tomorrow's episode.
105.
I mean, I'm glad it wasn't another documentary. So we had so many documentaries over the past few weeks. And we got another movie. Wow. Okay. We're going to watch another movie that is very much not like this. It's a very different movie. This one is called Drumline. Drumline. I know what this movie is. I don't know if I don't think I've seen it. If I have, I do not remember. But yeah, that's what we're going to watch next. Drumline on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here with that.